Hello everyone, so I was finally able to watch the new Hellraiser movie. You'll find this one on Hulu and it is just a little over 2 hours long, directed by David Bruckner and stars Odessa Azion, Jamie Clayton, really the people within this film. I was a little nervous going into this movie just because of the trailers. I wasn't certain what's too much to expect, but yes, without further ado, let us get into this reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. So, of course, this is a take on Clive Barker's 1987 horror classic Hellraiser by the same name, where a young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon a race known as the Cenobites, who are far beyond the plane of human existence in terms of their experience. The lore from the original films doesn't change here. The Cenobites are still, again, to just like people who have pushed the boundaries of human experience, but in very twisted and devious and ways that definitely seem like a trap. And you summon them by opening up a puzzle box, cuts you, and yeah, the Cenobites will visit you and basically torture you until you have felt absolutely everything that there is to experience. Basically, a realm of forever torture, and the last person to use the configuration of the box and of course feed the box, feed the Cenobites, will be granted some sort of wish. The box comes into the possession of a character named Riley in this film, and for the oh my goodness, so for the first, I want to say 2/3 of this movie, I wasn't really getting into it and enjoying it, and a lot of it was just because of her character. She's definitely been through a lot herself, but I just found her decisions were really getting people killed, and she was so naive to everything that was going on around her. So it was really hard to get into her character and back her and like her. And of course, it was almost impossible to want to root for her during all of this. There is that sense of something higher in terms of an evil above her herself, of course, but again too, it was just really hard to get into her character. She's putting her friends and other people in danger throughout the entirety of this movie, and I do want to say that things come around. The last third of this film, I actually found, is when it really started to get good and interesting. And even though, like, again, the majority of this film, when it comes to the Cenobites, Pinhead, all these people, all the Cenobites, were was again too accurate to the Clive Baker take. And even though this was a reboot, it was very true to, again, that lore. It's just a bit of a reimagining with more modern day technology to make such a film. And again, too, just a bit of a reimagining of some of the characters' looks, voices, and yeah, Jamie Clayton had a really great performance as the priest, or Pinhead, of course, herself in this film. I found the voice was, I don't want to compare it to the original, of course, because it just doesn't have that same booming effect. They do play with her voice quite a bit in terms of the after effects on it. So it does sound great, but her performance is very solid, and I did enjoy her, and I would like to see her as Pinhead in, or as the priest in more films come down the line, because again too, I really found its ground in the third half of this movie. That's when it started to get really interesting. A lot of the set design is really cool in this film, especially when it comes in terms of a mansion that the majority of this film takes place in. And yeah, it's it's really cool. Again, just the set direction, how it was able to play into the story in the back third of this film. I don't want to get into it for spoiler's sake too much, but it was really good. And then when it comes down to the horror of this film, there wasn't anything that scared me in this, but there are a lot of course, with the Cenobites being who they are, a lot of the torture in this is very brutal, and there are some gnarly kills that happen within the film. And of course, which is the Cenobites and their experience and the torture that they have undergone. Some of the effects that they do is very creepy and gross. If you've seen the movie Men that came out by A24 earlier this year, there's something similar with the arms that just absolutely creeped me the hell out. But yeah, again, too, I don't want to say it's too scary, but it does have a really good job building up that atmosphere of despair and torture, and again, to just something beyond the plane of human understanding was really well done in this. And there were a few times where I found the kills, there was like some off-screen deaths or just things happening in the backgrounds where I feel like they could have you see the aftermath, but this film could have been a lot more gory and brutal in a lot of ways, but there are a few scenes where this film gets extremely gory and brutal, and there's just some terrible things that go on and happen to a lot of the characters, and it's just tough to watch a lot of times because, again, too, this is straight up torture, and yeah, it can get very, 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 very intense and brutal and disturbing at a lot of times. Nothing that I had to, again, like shake my or turn my head away at, but it can get pretty gory. Yeah, no, I found this was a pretty dang good adaptation for the most part. I just wish that those first 2/3 would have had a little bit more ground to run at, and I think too, if you can bring in some characters who are, again, just you wanna root for them and understand them a little bit. Again, too, the character in this does come around eventually, but it was very tough to get into the first little bit of this movie. And really what brings it together, of course, is just the understanding of the Cenobites and seeing their designs, which are very, very, very cool. And I thought were just very unique and disturbing. And just to having this be again just a pretty faithful adaptation was something very, very good. So I would like to see more of this rebooted franchise in the future, and I'm gonna have to give this one 6.5 out of 10. I don't think, if you didn't like the original Hellraiser movies, I don't think this one's gonna do anything to win you over. It is great visually, it has really good soundtrack, all those things, but it is more in terms of that line. If you're if you don't like torture, anything like that, I would recommend staying away from this because, again, too, it is just straight in line with what the original movies did. But yes, if you've seen this new Hellraiser reboot, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. If you like this review, definitely give it a thumbs up. You can check out everything I do on this channel through my playlist. I'll link them up top here for convenience sake. Thank you for subscribing and turn that little ringer on. If you want to check out the description of this video on my channel bio, there's a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord, where we talk about movies, video games, comic books, TV, pretty much everything that's awesome in this world. So you can check out that amazing community, join it, and I'll make it even more amazing than it is already. And yeah, just awesome, guys.
Sky blue eyes, I see a world behind them. No more time sinking into the silence.